Ladies and gentlemen, let's start our today's session. Uh, we're talking about utilizing this water accounting insights and big data for enhancing agriculture productivity in Pakistan. As you know that water accounting is one of the important aspect. I mean, when you are talking about water measurements, so you can't measure if you are. I mean, if you want to manage it, you have to measure it. You can't do proper management. You can't do proper water management without proper accounting and the measurements. And nowadays, Pakistan is always facing climate-related events such as floods, droughts, heat waves are there, and specifically during the last few decades, this is happening, more and more. Uh, Efficient water management is also a challenge when you are talking about measurements. That's what I was talking about in the beginning. Uh, then the solution, what could be the solution? The solution is that you have to do some sort of very accurate accounting, very accurate measurement of the water resources, whatever it is available. And then, I mean, if you are going to do some sort of allocations, again, you need proper measurements because previously we were saying that 90% of surface water is required, or total water that we're using, or the fresh water we have with us is required for the agriculture. But now this is just only based on some just myths and some numbers. We don't have accurate and exact measurements for those. And whenever you are doing allocations, it is very important that you should know that how much water is coming into the canals and how much groundwater we are actually abstracting. And the thing is that nowadays, as irrigation department, we are discussing with irrigation department that this is not only surface water supplies are not only for the agriculture, but also domestic users or the Vasas are also demanding additional water or additional supplies from the canals as well. So it's very important to to do accounting so that you can have actually measurements, proper measurements, and then you can actually allocate according to the requirements. So we are blessed today that we are having one of our keynote speakers, that is Dr. Marloes Mol. She is the team leader in Water Accounting Plus from IHE Delft, Netherlands. She is an associate professor over there and currently managing the water accounting and water productivity team. The team is working closely with other colleagues within the institute and with their global partners networks to develop applications for using remote sensing data sets for decision making from field to the river basin scales. And the team has made a strong contribution to the implementation of FAO WAPOR project. And before joining IHE Delft, Marloes was based in the West Africa office of EMI in Accra, Ghana. So I would like to request Dr. Marloes Mills to give a keynote address in which she is going to talk on doing water accounting, but in the sense of with big data as well. So over to you, Dr. Marloes.
Thank you very much. And good to see you all. Thank you for having me. It's really a big pleasure to be speaking at this important event in Pakistan. And one of the things that you mentioned about the Vapor project that we're actively involved in, it's also very good to know that the Vapor data used to be available only for Africa and the Middle East. But as of October, it's also available globally, and we're also going to develop specific applications in Pakistan and collaborating with local partners there. So I also hope that my presentation will give some insights and some ideas on how the Vapor data could be utilized also for Pakistan. So today I'm going to talk a bit about utilizing big data and specifically remote sensing data for water accounting. That's the particular application of water accounting that IHE Delft in collaboration with EMI and FAO has developed over the last 10 years. So what are we talking about when we talk about water accounting? Water accounting is a tool to support decision making. Like Dr. Chima already mentioned, you need to have data to be able to be informed of what kind of decisions can you make. Is there sufficient water to develop new irrigation schemes? How's the water allocation? Is it equitable, etc.? So you need to have data for that. So this water accounting, there are various frameworks for water accounting, but it's always about systematic and quantitative assessment of the status and the trends in the amount of water that is available, the amount of water that's supplied, demanded, distributed, and used. And it consists of these three components: collecting the data, and providing the analysis of the data, so translating data to information, and then also communicating this information to stakeholders so they have it in a way that is understandable for them and related to the decision that they're making. Especially when we're talking about big data, it's very important that you're not just bombarding them with a lot of data that is not understandable and needs to be analyzed and presented in a way that can be used for decision making. So water accounting really attempts to make sense of how much water is available and how it's being used. So it doesn't only look at the natural system in terms of rainfall runoff modeling, but it also especially looks at the demand side and the use side and who is using the water and try to identify that. So we have done already some analysis on how this water accounting data could be utilized in different planning cycles. So we see this is the planning cycle that GWP has developed together with UN Water. So we see water accounting supporting different steps in this planning process. So for instance, in the water resource issue assessment, what is the current status of the basin? Is there a deficit? Is there a surplus? What does it look like? How does it look in a spatial or temporal context? Are there drought seasons and wet seasons versus specific areas that are wetter than others? What are the specific water consumption patterns, especially for agriculture? This is important. And we also developed different indicators in terms of closure of the river basin, etc., that can be developed from the water accounting data. Well, the water accounting can also be used to run scenarios on how, for instance, planned developments can affect resources. So developing an irrigation scheme or improving irrigation performance or water productivity, how that then relates to water resources. So it can also inform policy decisions and strategies. And then the last step, it can also be used to monitor and evaluate. So if there's been an investment done, to also see whether that investment actually materialized the benefits that they've that they attempted to provide, or the aims of the projects. So, well, we're talking about big data. So the data needs for water accounting requires a lot of regular collection of data on both stocks, so storage functions, as well as fluxes and flows. What we see in this graph also, and I think this is the global trend, that the number of observation networks have gone down. So for instance, for stream gauging stations, but also rainfall stations. Also, there's a lot of different organizations that collect data that not always share this data. And a lot of the fluxes are also difficult to measure. For instance, abstractions or water consumption by agriculture is difficult to measure because it's such a vast area, and to be able to collect this data is also often very costly. So we also saw as the collaboration, the international collaboration, an opportunity for using remote sensing data, not to replace the ongoing efforts to collect data, but also to complement the ongoing effort of collecting all the information. So this Water Accounting Plus, as I said, is developed with, in collaboration with the International Water Management Institute and FAO, combines both remote sensing data sets, including Vapor, with other global data sets. And we developed also a pixel-based water balance model that converts the fluxes into stocks of the soil moisture, but also deeper groundwater fluxes, and produces runoff, evaporation data, etc. So there's a hydrological model behind it. And then we report this type of information in what we call water accounting sheets. So these are one-page documents with a lot of the general oversight of the status of the basin in a certain time span. We also develop graphs and figures and spatial maps to illustrate the output of these water accounting plus studies. So it's largely driven, this model is largely driven by open access data and the spatial data, and that is both observation from remote sensing, but also reanalysis data. We utilize actual ET data as an input rather than as an output. And we also differentiate between green and blue ET to differentiate how much of the water that's consumed was due to abstractions from the main river system and how much was due to rainfall falling on that particular area itself. We also make all these scripts openly available, and they can be utilized by anybody to rerun the analysis or to apply them to their own case study. So some of the outputs that are generated, we produce this what we call sheet 1, which is general overview of the basin scale that provides an overview of the available water versus how much is being consumed, how much is exploitable in terms of how much of the water resources can be utilized, and how much is utilized of those and those water resources. We look also at reserved flows, for instance, for environment or for navigation, how much of the flows is utilized and can be still utilized, whether there's an overexploitation in terms of also change in storage. And as I said, there's an interest in the blue and green component of the evapotranspiration. And then these are some of the, so this is a basin in India, the Krishna basin, where we also provided these kind of graphics in terms of how much water is coming from one area to the other and how it differentiates, for instance, over the seasons in terms of combining or making a storage and depleting the storage and looking at long-term values for that. Well, then also we provide these kind of spatial maps. So you see here for the same area, you see the land use category, and you also see if you map that out with the blue ET, so the water use from surface or groundwater, that for instance, of course, makes sense that the water bodies evaporate most of the blue water resources, whereas areas that have forest or large vegetation evaporate more of the green water resources. So you can get all these kind of spatial maps and analyze them per land use class. So you can see in the circle diagram that the irrigation cropland is actually irrigated in this particular area, almost 50% of the evapotranspiration in the area. So we can provide these kind of spatial maps. Another example in Tanzania, which is in Africa, we also evaluated the blue ET in that particular area. We evaluated against different land use classes, and then we combined it and estimated the amount of water that was being abstracted for irrigation use in this particular area. And at every point in the basin, we could actually estimate how much of the flows in the river were reduced because of irrigation abstractions. And when we talked to the Pangani Basin Office, the River Basin Organization, these were also estimates that were very much in line with what they were estimating in terms of the spatial abstractions for irrigation that was taking place in the area. So of course, this is not a one size fits all and provides all the information that you need to provide a proper water account for a river basin. So some of the limitations, or some of them can also be positive. So the focus is really on water consumption. So the ET of the land. So this is the ET from the green and the blue, but it's nothing to do with the abstractions for agriculture. And I know a lot of the indicators, for instance, for the SDGs, are really interested in abstractions for agriculture and withdrawals, and not as consumption. But on the other hand, the amount of water that is no longer available for the basin is what is being consumed, not what is being abstracted, because there's also a return flow or percolation that can be utilized by other uses. So it's an advantage and a limitation, but also I would say an advantage. So also other types of abstraction and consumptions, such for domestic livestock and industry, are not included. For a lot of basins, that's not a big issue because the majority of the water use is for agriculture. And the amount of water that's really being consumed for domestic use, the abstractions and the return flows had a difference between that is maybe 20%, but it's still a factor that is really important, especially when you talk about water quality, something that I didn't mention as a limitation, but also water quality is not considered currently in the water accounting framework. So we also look at hydrological boundaries, and if you have interbasin transfers, whether water comes in or out, we need observation data to be able to add that to the water account. And then also where the water is coming from for this consumption, we also need to determine where it's coming from, and it's not something that we can see from the evaporation, whether it's groundwater, surface water derived. And currently we don't have a routing included in the model. So then another application, we had a group of very good MSc students from Pakistan last year, and one of the students was very much interested in also looking at using remote sensing for this SDG 6.4.2, which is related to water scarcity. And we applied that to two of the river basins in the Jhelum and the Ravi basin in the Indus basin to estimate the amount of water stress in each of these basins. And we have, well, you know, of course, there's a lot of data that's being collected in Pakistan from all the canals and the river system. So we try to make an estimate on the level of water stress in two of these basins. So because of all the data that was already there on the ground, we only had to estimate one of the things that was unknown was the total freshwater withdrawal from groundwater. And we tried to estimate that using the ET. So we knew how much was withdrawn for the surface water. And then we said, okay, from the actual ET data in the system, we can also derive that the difference between the ET and the water used from surface water is then derived from the groundwater. So we applied this water accounting concept also to this process, and we're still investigating what the value is of these kind of analysis and whether or not we should calculate this on a sub-basin or maybe at the larger basin level. But it was quite an interesting study from this very nice and very good student. I also saw in the program that we're also interested in maybe in Pakistan developing a water accounting or a unit or something in the ministry that could develop these kind of water accountings for Pakistan. So there's also some experience that we've had with IHE in terms of building capacity in water accounting plus. So for instance, in Egypt, under an EU-funded project, we've developed several water accounts for different areas. And also try to see if the analysis could support. They've got this national water resources plan for the next 20 years to see if we could use some of this data to monitor their indicators. And there is a very good staffed unit in the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation, the water accounting unit, that we've helped building capacity to do the analysis, to analyze the data, to test them for validity, etc. So there's now a very strong unit in the ministry that actually utilizes this kind of data for their daily use. So there's, you know, all these different systems that you need to have in place to be able to make a functional system. And then also as a part of a World Bank project, we also developed a roadmap for integrating water accounting plus in Mongolia. They didn't already have a unit presented, so we're also looking at proposing to set up a unit there to develop water accounting analysis. They already used the CAW framework to report water accounting, and they were trying to see how they could use the water accounting, the remote sensing based water accounting to supplement their reporting for Mongolia. So that was also a very interesting approach. So we also did a lot of capacity building on how to utilize this remote sensing data. And then finally, as a last slide, I think I already mentioned in the beginning of my presentation. So this vapor data, so we've currently in the second phase of the project we've done a lot of these water accounting assessments using the vapor data because it contains a lot of the information that we need for the analysis. And it's now becoming, so one of the aims of the second phase was actually to develop the global water, the database for a global system. And this data is now also available for Pakistan. So the global data is available at 300-meter resolution, but there will be even a higher resolution version available for Pakistan for 100-meter resolution, and it provides information water consumptions like ET, but also biomass production. So yeah, we're really looking forward to engaging with the Pakistani partners to start the project and the activities on the vapor project in Pakistan. So I'm really excited to also mention that here today. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marlius Mull, and it was really an interesting presentation in which we tried to, provide the insights that how big data can also be utilized and used for doing water accounting and, the water accounting plus framework that you actually, with other teammates have developed. It's really, working. We are also testing it in the Indus Basin context as well, and I think we will be in a good position to use these big data and information that actually being getting from different satellites and remote sensing products that could also be beneficial for using them into the water accounting setups. So if somebody wants to ask question from Dr. Mol, so the house is open for 2 to 3 quick questions if from the house. या माइक दीजिएगा आगे. हाँ जी आगे बोदला साहब.
Thank you, Dr. Saab, and thank you, Mol, for the very good presentation. My question is, she has already pointed out that there are limitations regarding the actual obstruction of the groundwater. But my question is, if the groundwater is brackish and we are not using the groundwater, then it is very useful tool. And if we are using the groundwater, can we make a difference if there is if we periodically measure the groundwater level, then if there is a difference of water level before and after, and that also gives the quantity of the water abstracted from the groundwater, and in my opinion that can be helpful to from the ET, that we can calculate the total water used for the crop. Is it true?
Yes, definitely the groundwater levels will provide supplementary data to estimate how much of the water use is from groundwater. But then we also have to think about estimating the amount of water that's being recharged either naturally or from seepage from the irrigation itself. So it will definitely help in estimating the groundwater abstraction, but as a supplementary data. So and we need that to be able to really estimate the groundwater abstractions.
Yeah. So no further questions. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Mul, once again, and I think you will be the part of this dialogue as well at that till the end. So we are going to move to the next segment of this discussion that I would like to request our panelists to dig more into into those options and things that how this big data, artificial intelligence, remote sensing products, satellite products, or the products that are actually available at some sort of reanalysis products as well. So how these can be augmented to do water accounting, water allocations. So we have a very elite panel with us today to discuss on these questions. So I would like to request of our first panelist, Dr. Rubina Wahaj. She is Senior Land and Water Officer in FAO and is currently based in Pakistan. She has the PhD in irrigation and water engineering from the Netherlands and have over 20 years of experience in water sources management, irrigation modernization, policy and advocacy. Prior joining to FAO, she was also working with the international organizations like IMI, Water Center of International Center for Advanced Mediterranean Studies, and international consultancy firms like DHV Consultants. So I would like to request Dr. Rubina Wahaj to be on the stage. And along with her, I would also like to request Engineer Dr. Bashir Ahmed as a professional hydrologist with more than 25 years of professional experience and currently serving as Director of Climate, Energy and Water Research Institute in Pakistan Agriculture Research Council. I would also like to request him to be on the stage. Our third panelist is Engineer Dr. Muhammad Riaz. Nowadays he's heading PMIU in Irrigation Department, and he has more than 28 years of experience in monitoring of canal operations and executed first provincial pilot real-time flow monitoring system project in Punjab Irrigation Department. He is also a focal person for ITSA telemetry systems. So Dr. Riaz sir, please. Our fourth panelist, Dr. Hifsa Rashid, if she is still not here, I guess, but I think she will be joining us in a couple of minutes. Okay, thank you very much, our panelists, for being here with us today on, to discuss on this important aspect. So you have also heard, that this big data, things that are being used for doing water accounting, and that water accounting is basically important for national water policy of Pakistan, for implementation of national water policy, because Pakistan government at federal level, they have developed this national water policy, and afterwards provincial water acts are also being developed at different provinces. In Punjab, it has been developed, and the Water Sources Commission and Water Sources Zone has been also been developed, as well as now they are in the phase of starting work as well. So they are really in need of doing these type of water accounting and what reallocation of water, whatever we are supplying them. So my question to Dr. Obina is that it's important to develop water accounting systems for transparent water use among different users. How can big data be helpful for the implementation of water accounting framework from the field to the system scale?
Thank you, Jima Sab. Actually, the big data, and we saw the presentation which mainly focused on big data or from remote sensing, but the big data could be, what do we mean by big data? Big data is the data that we cannot use for traditional and in traditional softwares. They cannot, traditional softwares cannot handle the processing, the storage, the use of big data, generation of big data, data. When that is the situation, that is called big data. And big data is being used in different analyses over the years. Also in remote, in water counting, with or without remote sensing. In water counting, we know that water counting is not only for one sector. So when we're talking about different sectors and we're talking about different kind of data, we're talking about different sources of data, different level of quality of data. That's where the big data processing is very, very helpful, very, very useful. And our new usual computers sometimes are not able to support the processing. So this is why we more and more using crowdsourcing. So we don't have to download any information, and we can use the information online with open access softwares, with like the one presented by Marlos, and open access data sources, and use that and do our own analysis online or web-based portal. Sometimes the analysis is provided on the web-based portal. So there are data portals. One of them is Vapor, which Marlos has suggested, which also uses water accounting. In terms of water accounting, if you give me a minute, in terms of water accounting, this data and information for Pakistan especially is very, very useful, from the field all the way to the national level or basin level, if you like. And there were some examples which were presented. The issue that I foresee and sometimes we face, because in FAO, which is, by the way, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, Marlos has said a lot of times FAO, and some of you probably did not understand what FAO is. So FAO is FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. There is data available in Pakistan. Habib Bodla Saab has in another session mentioned a very good initiative of the Irrigation Department Punjab for putting all the information and data on water levels and everything online, and it's accessible, and we have used it in a few from them. The same initiatives are needed. So there is data available, and there is data which is not available to everyone. So it's not open access. Very often, for example, even the weather climate data is not available openly to everyone. Sometimes you have to pay for that. So when you do water accounting at any level, whether it's field level, scheme level, canal level, basin level, or national level, we will need different data sets. We will need data from different sectors also, which then the big data sets can provide and can be used for assessment for water accounting. Remote sensing can fill in the gaps when we do not have field data, but remote sensing alone will have some errors which need to be validated. The results need to be validated in the field to understand if they are accurate or not. Besides remote sensing alone, you will need information on withdrawal, you need information on groundwater from the field at least to validate the information. One last thing on vapor. Vapor will be launched in January. We will be organizing a launching ceremony of vapor, which will be implemented in Pakistan at the national level. So at the national level, we will be using the resolution of around, so the global level resolution in vapor is 300 meter. The national level is 200 meter. And scheme or irrigation canal level is 20 meter resolution. On top of that, we are going to dig into some of the areas. For example, there are some districts in Punjab and Sindh in a part of another project where we'll be using vapor also to assess the water counting, to do the water counting and assess the water productivity and monitor the water productivity, and that will be, I think, less than 20 meter resolution. So we can, so that information will also be available next year, hopefully, for everyone.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Rubina, for giving the insights on different data sets. And, there's also a very important point that you raised, that only remote sensing and satellite data sets are can't, fulfill our requirements. We need in situ data as well to, develop confidence on them. But at least the good thing is that in Pakistan now we are having a lot of organizations are there. They're actually, measuring all those in situ, the things as well, like flows are being taken care by provincial irrigation departments. Then PMD is there. They are also going to, establish a network of all those observatories. So the datas are there. I mean, this is the time for researchers to explore more and more, and then how they can actually, do good things for Pakistan. And also thankful to updating us that WAPRO is also going to, start from January. That will be also a good source of data for our researchers. I also have, seeing a lot of people from academia as well. They are always welcome to have some free data sources. So it will be a good news for them. So thank you very much. Now I would like to move forward towards discussing about governance and policies. So Dr. Bashir Ahmed, can you please tell us something more on that? What type of policies and regulatory frameworks are required to support the implementation of comprehensive water accounting systems? Because things are there, all those models are there, but its implementation is always a problem. So what do you think that how we can actually do this type of implementation setup so that we can actually keep on working?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Chimasa. Yes, I think there are a lot of policies, and as it has been said many times, being a Pakistani, very good in making policy as well as in framework, but we are very weak in implementation. So we do have a national water policy as well as some provincial water policies, which also emphasizes about the monitoring system, the need of the data, it also has been mentioned in the food security policy as well as climate change policy. But there's a need, we must have some standardized kind of framework for collection about this data. Not only that one, but it should be a standard, because water uses a cross ministerial as well as cross provincial subject, and there must be some kind of standardization in terms of observation. Surface water is done by national agency WAPDA. That is good. They are taking care of all over Pakistan, although the intensity as well as the frequency of observation is well below the national standards. The WAPDA has some observation along the main rivers, but a lot of areas, especially the southern part of the country, Balochistan, where we are now facing a lot of floods. So there we are missing this observation network. So there's a need to enhance that network. Then in terms of the provincial irrigation department, that is a main concern, although Punjab is doing, Punjab irrigation department is doing good job, and they have kind of good observation network, but in the same time other provinces like Balochistan as well as the KPK, they need their capacity in terms of professional capacity as well as enhancement of. So in terms of I would say, so we need kind of framework which clearly indicate the deficiency in the collection in terms of the observation network, as well as the clear role and responsibility of the organizations, and then in terms of the standardization, because many times we collect a lot of data, but its accuracy is a question mark, and then if we are doing some modeling work, and then various organizations, their frequency as well as observational other instruments. So framework with all kind of I think these details that should be at a federal level, might be at Ministry of Water Resources, and it should cater all surface water as well as groundwater irrigation. So I do support. Although as Dr. Robina and Dr. Chima, you said that there is a lot of data is day by day, like remote sensing data as well as re-analysis data is available, but you cannot neglect the importance of the institute data. So those data set would only be possible, their accuracy or the effectiveness would only be possible if we have a very good observation and data to validate our modeling system. And I would also emphasize that in the framework it should not only clearly spell out about the observation data, but there must be some suggestion or for this re-analysis as well as remote sensing data. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Bashir, for so two things came up from the talk of Dr. Bashir Saab, that one is that the framework is required, and there is a need of standardization. So those two things are the key, I would say, keywords. And we are actually also working on developing water sources assessment standards and water sources water accounting framework, so that it could be institutionalized, and it could be taken up by the federal government. Then it can also I mean, with the consultation of the provincial governments as well. And as far as in situ data are concerned, well, we have we are blessed that we have Engineer Habibullah Bodla Saab as the chief engineer in irrigation. So he has you know, like more than 20 years, 25 years of working with this PMIU and then you know, irrigation department, and he's actually started you know, digitization of all the you know, the flow data. So I would also like to request Dr. Engineer Habibullah Botla Saab to just let some, you know, to give your remarks on that as well. Yeah, please, sir.
Thank you, Doctor. Nobody can deny about the water accounting. Basically, it is a tool for the better water governance. I would like to discuss it in the context of the Pakistan. Especially, you know that our main dependence is on the surface water. And surface water is coming from the rivers. As regards the observation at the rim stations, there is no issue of the discharge measurement. Yani you can safely say that the discharge measurement carried out at the rim station is quite correct. Where does the problem arise? The problem arises at the barrages. Because these barrages exist in the different provinces. And that's the reasons that especially the Sindh and the Punjab, both are blaming. Sindh always blames the Punjab that they are drawing more water than the reported discharge. And similarly, the Punjab says that they are underreporting the discharge whatsoever they are receiving at the Qutub Barrage. This is the main issue. In Punjab Irrigation Department, I would just like to give the importance of the discharge observation is when a system was established by the in 1920s or about, even before that, some system was established by the British peoples. There was the SOP that the discharge at the barrages of the main canals were observed on daily basis. At that time, there was no ADCP or like these instruments. They were observing the discharge like a traditional current meter. That was the importance of the discharge observation at that time. So what happened? This system continues. In fact, I would like to give the examples of about Punjab province about in 1980s and almost after the 1990s, the discharge observation almost it was considered as a, in other words, there was no importance for the discharge observations. But we, in 2006, we established an independent unit that is called the Program Monitoring Implementation Unit. That is the independent team that is headed by the Secretary Irrigation, but they are quite different. They are not the subordinates of the field officers. Being the chief in Lahore, they are not my subordinates. They are the subordinates of Secretary Irrigation. Now, after 2006, they are independently observing the discharge, not only at the main canal, even up to the minor, sub-minor levels. So, in other words, we can say that we have revamped the discharge observations of the entire irrigation network of the province of the Punjab. But unfortunately, I would like to say, any one of us can visit the Sindh barrages. There is no discharge table, there is no proper gauge, there is no system for the discharge observations. And that is very unfortunate. Because whatsoever the IRSA gives the discharge depending upon the water availability at the rim stations. They give the discharge according to the accord shares. They distribute the water to each province. And whatsoever the province reports the discharge, that is received by the IRSA. In other words, either they report 80, either they report 100, either they report 50, whatsoever, it is the discretion of the province to report the discharge to the IRSA. So IRSA discharge is totally the discharge conveyed by the respective departments. In fact, it is, in other words, say that is not the correctness of the discharge. That's the reasons now they are going to implement the telemetry system. Hopefully, we expect that IRSA will work and they will have a independent telemetry system so that each province, that will definitely brings the confidence building measures among the provinces, and we will start receiving the actual discharges which are being received by the provinces. That is one aspect, and that is the discharge observation. Another aspect is that after receiving the discharges, we are to establish a proper water accounting systems. Irrigation Department of Punjab, they have developed the water source management information systems up to the even the canal division levels. So whatsoever the canal division receive the discharge, they are accountable for whatsoever they received and whatsoever they have reported. Not we are relying on their observation, on their reporting. We are also having the independent teams to check their discharges. That is called the sample checking, and that is done surprisingly by the independent teams. So that we want to ensure whatsoever the discharge is being reported by the field formation, that should be accurate. This is the reason we are receiving a discharge of about 6,000 sites on a daily basis in the Punjab Irrigation Secretariat, in the PMIU, and we are disseminating the same discharge on the website. And in fact, it is a unique system in the world. There is, in fact, this aspect was not known to me. I was giving the presentation in the USGS Washington. They said, are you collecting a discharge of more than 6,000 sites? Yes, and then it is a unique system. Even we are not we are not receiving a discharge of more than 6,000 sites. Now we are having the proper accounting system in the Punjab, and we expect this kind of system should be established by each provinces. Even the IRSA should come up, should ensure that whatsoever they are distributing the discharge, that should be as per their shares. But the data accuracy and authenticity that are also responsible to the IRSA. And I am sorry to say IRSA is not fulfilling this job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Habibullah Bodla Saab. And the two things that I perceived from your talk is that accuracy and reliability. Yeah, you can have a seat. So two things. I mean, that's the accuracy and reliability of the data sets, as well as there is a need to do some sort of to install some sort of new gadgets, advanced gadgets to measure and monitor the flowing water at different sites and different locations, along with the monitoring of groundwater and other sources of water. So my question now is towards I would like to ask from the Riyaz Saab that I mean, how this federal or provincial governments can ensure the accuracy and reliability of data sets that can be used for proper water allocations and proper water accounting systems.
Thank you, Chima Saab, for inviting me as a panelist. Most of the things Bodla Saab has informed regarding the Punjab irrigation, what we are doing at Punjab level. So we are doing the monitoring at all over the Punjab irrigation network. I want to add some points that Punjab Irrigation Department has installed the first telemetry system, a real-time flow monitoring system at pilot scale at 136 point in Punjab Irrigation Network, from where we are daily monitoring the channels, and according to the rotation program, we are monitoring the channels. So we are in other words, we are making the water accounting for each distributary and minor levels. So departments really wants to expand this real-time flow monitoring system to all Punjab irrigation network, which includes from 136 point to 1500 points. As far as the IRSA is concerned, IRSA authority is monitoring the flows, but as Bodla Saab informed, that is just monitoring the flows that the data provinces are sending to the federal IRSA. So being the focal person from Punjab Irrigation Department, we have just started the exercise, and we have requested IRSA to standardize the equipment for discharge measurement. So for all the IRSA critical points, for all the barrages, we are using the ADCP, caustic Doppler current profiler for discharge measurement of main canal of taking from the barrage. And for the remaining canal in Punjab irrigation, we are using the current meters. So I think with the installation of telemetry system by the ITSA, we will be able to more accounting the water as well as at the federal level as well as the provincial level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it means we have hope that we are going to have some good, water accounting systems as well as the data sets on which they are actually based on. But I mean, what we have actually observed for last 6 months, we have been in consultation, in discussion with federal government as well as with the provincial governments of Punjab, then KP, and now we are also planning to go towards Balochistan and afterwards Sindh as well to discuss more on this water accounting assessment framework as well as development of water assessment standards. So one thing is, I mean, we are actually looking at that Punjab, I mean, there is some capacity that has been developed to do this type of modern analysis, but still KP is very much interested to do it. They are enthusiastic to do this type of new techniques and water accounting systems. But I mean, the capacity building is also is required over there. And similarly, we are also expecting this type of capacity building needs for Balochistan and as well as for Sindh province. So in context of that, my next question is from Dr. Hafsa. Thank you, Dr. Hafsa, for joining us. Dr. Hafsa is basically DG in Pakistan Council of Research in Water Sources, and she has a PhD degree from University of Leeds. Dr. Hafsa, you are just listening all the conversation within us, and that what do you think that we're talking about this capacity building thing. So what do you think that our institutes have the capacity to do this type of to use this type of big data analytics as well as to do water accounting using those big data analytics? So do we have such capacity, or do we need to improve our capacities? Do we need some capacity building as well? So what are your thoughts on it?
Thank you very much. As water accounting is directly related to the water governance through water auditing. So everything which comes under the circle of the water audits, measurements for evapotranspiration, precipitation, groundwater, storage variations, and so many other things in which water is consumed in the different domains, it is related to the water audits. And then definitely all the approaches which are required for the proper and the standardized measurement of the different types of the water will be required by the institutions which are either using water, providing services in the water sector, as well as undertaking research or are related to the agriculture or irrigation or domestic or industrial. So first of all, the organization, this is an emerging concept. And if the national water accounting framework is developed, definitely that would be one of the premier work which would enhance the institutional capacity of Pakistani agencies in all the provinces, definitely. Currently, I think the data is in the bits and pieces. The data standards are not yet clear which tools are being used for the data generation. Either those are modern tools, those are calibrated, validated properly. It's not yet sure at all if we talk about the national, even at the provincial scale. So definitely the institutional capacity is a gap, and that needs to be met up using the modern tools like the GIS, remote sensing. And then we have to focus on the capacity building for predictive modeling, forecasting, and forecasting the future water availability and future water projections. This is one of the big gap which I have observed, not in the other organizations, even in my own organization as well. So definitely we need to work more on the different water accounting softwares like CBAL, and then there is also some very good frameworks in the world like European water environmental accounting system, in which water accounting is a component. So such kind of, I think, exposures to these programs would also enhance the institutional capacity. Other than these, the modern ways of collecting the groundwater data, surface water hydromatics through at the basin level, at the field level, even using the mobile applications would be very helpful. And with this, as Bodla Sahab has mentioned, the capacity of IRSA is, we need to enhance its capacity. And then with this, the data sharing mechanism is also missing, which is still not yet properly developed. And I think we should have a national level data sharing policy. And when we talk about the data, we always see that there are some databases or data portals in the bits and pieces. We know FAO is also working on that. PCRWR is also working on that. And there are some provincial organizations like provincial irrigation departments. They have their own data portals. But I think the when I see the examples of the other countries, I have come to know that Indian's Ministry of Water Resources have a very consolidated and the centralized national water informatics agency, which basically collects the data from the all water related projects and agencies and keep it under control, and they use it for the different types of the data analytics, and they have the capability for this, they have the expertise for this, and then the data, how the data is shared, this is also defined. And I have suggested always that Pakistan also needs such kind of the arrangements for our centralized data portal, and in which all the organizations do not feel any reluctancy in sharing the data. And by this way, I hope that we will be able to have our defined data sets, and then using those data for future projections, and specifically in relation to the climate change risks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hafsa, for your insights on data availability and institutional capacity building for using this type of softwares and tools. And I would also like to mention over here that Punjab Irrigation Department, at least they have started this groundwater, surface water management information system.
Yes.
And I mean, we also, from IMI side, we are also, collaborating with the irrigation department, on-farm water management and other departments to also develop this groundwater management information system that will be basically integrated with the surface, so that we have a detailed data set on daily supplies, surface supplies, as well as the groundwater fluctuations. So I mean, the work is going on, but I mean, again, the capacity is an issue, but I mean, with the passage of time, this will also be covered up. Lot of organizations, I would like to mention FAO, and then PARC, NARC, irrigation departments on federal level and also provincial level. So all those departments have the will to do this type of data availability and data sharing as well, but it will certainly take time. And thank you very much for your insights. So if house is open for the thank you very much, Dr. Saab, for just reminding me that we are also working on there is basically a project that is on water sources accountability program, in which we are actually trying to first we have developed a grid system in which all the piezometers that are Punjab Irrigation Department is basically have those piezometers, and they are also installing those piezometers according to the a certain principal component analysis, in which we actually taken all the different data sets into account that and developed some maps in which we can actually determine that which are the hotspots where there is more need to do groundwater estimations, or also monitoring as well. So IMI in collaboration with FCDO, we are actually Punjab Irrigation Department is developing piezometers over there, and we have installed CTD divers, that is basically measuring quality and quantity of the groundwater. So we have done this 50 CTD divers have been installed in one of the pilot districts of Okada, and then 50 also in Rahim Yar Khan, and we are also planning to do 50 more groundwater observation setups in Chakwal district, that is more prone towards droughts and arid region. So the idea is that Punjab Irrigation Department, Water Sources Zone and Water Sources Commission, they are actually taking it up to install all those divers within the remaining 36 or 35 districts of Punjab. So we will have a very comprehensive information system for groundwater, because groundwater was the missing part. Surface water, yes, we have information that is coming from the rainfall, the information the Punjab Irrigation Department, other irrigation departments are actually considering that's basically the surface flows, but the groundwater was the missing part, and now we are hopeful that this missing part will also be accounted for as well. So if you would like to add in it.
Another thing, in fact, we were having the piezometers in all over the Punjab, and we were observing the levels of the piezometers since 2006, but we were just monitoring it, and we were also observing the groundwater quality of the different tube wells across the Punjab since 2006. But now our water sources zone has started the digitization of all the private tube wells. So far, we have carried out the digitization of 1 million tube wells, and that is giving the real usage of the each tube wells. We are collecting all kinds of data. What is the horsepower of the, what is the discharge, and similarly how many hours it is being used, where is its location. So all these things are being digitized in the geographic information systems. And we will complete this exercise during the next year of March. And within 3 months, we will be able to digitize the entire tube wells of the entire province of the Punjab. So now with the IMI, they are carrying out the pilot study in the 3 districts. After developing groundwater management information system in 3 districts, we are upscaling it and we will take it up to the provincial levels. So whatsoever the missing part of the groundwater, that is definitely because under the Water Act, the groundwater management will also be carried out by the irrigation department and the different water actors, the involved under the Water Act. So this aspect will also be taken up, has already been taken up, and it will be, in other words, you can say within a year we will start the management of the groundwater also. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bodla sir, for detailed description. So any question from the audience, please?
Hello, Dr. Fayaz is here from Merit University. It was a unique kind of thing that we are talking about, water accounting. But one major part which I am thinking that we are missing something about the industrial pumping. One of the important aspects, because for the agriculture, I think there may be some kind of recharge, but how about the industry purpose? How many they are consuming and how many they are uptaking from the industrial?
2-3 question ले लेते हैं, then फिर वर्कल.
Hello, my name is Hamadullah Khan Yusufzai and I am from International Islamic University, Islamabad. Sir, my question is from the moderator and the other learned sir, that you have mentioned that you have installed 50 CTDs divers in wells in Okada and Chakwal and some other districts, and sir is saying that we have digitized 1 million tube wells around throughout Punjab. But sir, my question is, where can we access that data? Is that data open source? Is that data available to all of us, or is it just exclusive to IMI or personnel from some government bodies? Thank you.
जी आगे दीजिएगा, ये उधर पीछे दे दें साहब.
My name is Amjad Saeed and I am from IRSA. I agree to the observation that came from the panelists that IRSA has failed to perform its role of monitoring. but at the same time, I want to clarify the role of IRSA. IRSA was established in 1992 under IRSA Act, and IRSA is performing its role while remaining within the ambit of IRSA Act. The reporting of the canal withdrawals is entrusted to the provinces as defined in the IRSA Act. On the basis of the reported discharges, we compile the water account. Obviously, it is very much true that if we will not have the correct withdrawals, then the water account will have so many observations and questions. In the IRSA Act, the monitoring is very defined, and monitoring is entrusted to the IRSA, but without any monitoring mechanism. We don't have any monitoring mechanism, monitoring system and equipment, and also not any sort of the HR for observing the actual discharges in the field. The government of Pakistan through Ministry of Resources and other agencies is working on the restructuring of IRSA, and under the reforms programs, this monitoring role is being redefined to strengthen IRSA to perform its monitoring role. This was the clarification from my side.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, आगे दीजिएगा.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdullah Jan and I am from Arid University. Sir, my question is that we are digging tube wells for domestic use as well as the agriculture use, but there is no, I can't see any option, anything to restore that groundwater, like rainwater harvesting. Please put some light on this.
आगे लेके आई देखो फ्रंट पे जी. इधर डॉक्टर साहब.
Yeah, I am Mohammad Tahir Anwar, former Director General, Ministry of National Food Security and Research. Though I have, the panelists have given the insight of the data availability, but as the topic of the title of the session suggests, how that data could be used for the enhancement of the agriculture productivity vis-a-vis with regard to the climate change, number one. Number two, I want to have the comments from the panelists, how that big data could be utilized for the purpose which has been, collected or stored there. Second point is the data has been collected by the various agencies, as Dr. Hafsa has indicated, bits and pieces, it's available there. There needs to integrate it. Not only the integrate the data, integrate the available data, but it has to be translated into information for the use of the policy makers and the political bosses for the better understanding and for the better planning. At the moment, until now, I think this is a missing link. The data is available here and there, but it's not been translated into information for the understanding of the policy makers, even from the, it is available for the researchers, but not for the layman, for the like the policy makers and the suggesters. I have your input on that, on the panelists from the, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Dr. Bina, you would like to say something?
Thank you. Too many things. First of all, whenever we talk about water accounting at any level, it invariably becomes the discussion on data. Availability, unavailability of data, accuracy, non-accuracy of data. So yes, data, and many times data is available, as Hifz also said, not even in bits and pieces. Sometimes a lot of data is available with different organizations, and I said it before, but people are not willing to share the data, right? So it's not openly accessible to different people to use it, to convert it into information. The use of data, process it, analyze it, convert it into information. And that information then would be translated into messages for policymakers, messages for researchers, messages for farmers, messages for different water users. And somebody has rightly asked the question on how about industrial use? Because I think since I was a student, the only thing I hear about water use is 90%, over 90% of water in Pakistan is used in agriculture. It was true at a certain point, it's not true anymore. And it still remains by large the largest, agriculture sector remains by large the largest user of water. But the population of Pakistan has increased a lot, right? Industry has increased, I would tend to think. So how is it possible that the percentage of water and the water availability remains more or less the same over many years? So how is it possible, and we don't think like that, how is it possible that still we use over 90% of water in agriculture and our population is increasing and that requires water and nobody's sleeps thirsty at the end of the day? Well, water quality is a different discussion altogether. It's a different discussion how contaminated water is creating havoc for health of children and health of communities. So that's an important aspect. This data can be used to do water accounting. There is increasing recognition among different institutions and different provinces as well. Punjab is leading, but there is more and more recognition from other smaller provinces as well on how are we using our own water resources, where are we using our water, which use is more productive, how can we tackle quality, how can we tackle depleting groundwater levels, how can we maybe we have not, or provinces have not found the solutions yet, the workable solutions, not found the workable have not developed the workable policies which can be implemented, but there is a growing recognition on what needs to be done. The information needs to be available in this context. Even seen these in their new projects, World Bank funded projects are thinking about hydroagro-informatics system, which would take into account different data and then use the data to analyze, to do some kind of analysis, water accounting, other assessments, water productivity monitoring, and so on. But how do we share the data? What are the protocols of sharing the data, as Hifsa said, remains the question mark. In terms of capacities, and Hafsa has rightly pointed out, but I would think it's not that there is no capacity in the country, because you have in the universities, but there's a lot of brain drain. There's a lot of brain drain, people who are good, and Chima Sab, you have done your PhD from the Netherlands, I guess. And so you left your university, you became international, a member of an international organization or employee of an international organization. Similarly, a lot of people would go. Institutions are not ready to take that responsibility, because what we were trying to do, and that includes Punjab Irrigation Department. I'm naming it only because Punjab Irrigation Department is way ahead in terms of technical capacities and what they're doing with the data. Even they said, we cannot do the water accounting. You have to bring experts who will train us. We will do, if you like, hands-on training. We will use the data, but we don't expect us to independently do the water accounting and give you the results. That's an important. That's very important to address that thing. Now, for example, in Egypt, and Marlon's mentioned that, Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation in Egypt has established a water accounting unit, which is using vapor methodology to do the water accounting and monitor water productivity. Now, what can we do with the data? Monitor your water productivity, at least in agriculture, in crop production. I would not say agriculture, because that also includes livestock, fisheries, and so on. At least crop production. You can identify hotspots of water productivity, then address the causes which are. It will give you information. It will not tell you what are the reasons for low water productivity, but it will tell you your water productivity in this area is very low. Then you have to do more analysis on saying what are the the actions that need to be taken to increase the water productivity in this area or that area. I think I would stop here.
Thank you very much. So, regarding question on industrial tube wells and the domestic pumpage as well, so I will request Dr. Bodla Saab to,
Thank you, Dr.
respond.
Basically, whenever we discuss the water accounting, we cannot separate the surface water and the groundwater. We have to take one thing, in fact. As I already pointed out, before that we were just monitoring the water levels and the quality of the groundwaters. No one was knowing the exact quantity of the tube wells and what is the exact quantity of the water being extracted. No one was knowing that. Now, under the Water Act, because 3 institutions have been created, one is the Water Commission, Water Regulation Authority, and third one is the Water Source Zone. This is the first time that the Water Commission will be responsible for the distribution of the water for the agriculture, domestic, industry, and ecological things. Otherwise, before that, of course, major quantity of the water was being used for the agriculture purpose. Now it is the domain of the Water Source Commission, which is in fact under the Chief Minister Punjab, who will be the head of the Water Source Commission. And whenever we will give the water to the water takers, for example, Vasa, the Water Commission will allocate the water for the Vasa, how much quantity they can extract from the ground or how much quantity they can obtain from the surface water. So then that license will be given under certain terms and conditions. Then the Water Regulation Authority will be responsible that whatsoever under the terms and conditions under which the license has been granted to the water taker, either these are being fulfilled or not. That is the responsibility of the Water Regulation Authority. And Water Resources Zone is in fact the technical bone of both the organizations. They will provide it, they will be having the hydrologist, they will be having the hydraulic engineers, and they will be having the groundwater management specialists. And they are working now closely with the IMI, and IMI is providing all kind of these supports to the Water Sources Zone, so that they, after establishing the whole of water accounting systems, they can guide the Water Source Commission. And for example, first of all, we must be knowing that what is the current usage of all the sectors. Though no one exactly knowing instead of the agriculture. We know what quantity is being used by the agriculture, but exact quantity of the industry or even the domestic is not known to anybody. It is the first time that all the details will be available with the Water Sources Zones. And then they will see that which quantity is available for the other sectors, and that will be then the role of the Water Source Commission will come. And definitely under this, after the establishment of the water accounting systems and after the redistribution of the water in the sectors, the things will go in the other way. Otherwise, currently we can say that the water is being given to the agriculture sectors, in fact. One of the students asked about the availability of the data of the tube wells. Of course, after the March, all data will be available, and after the development of groundwater management system, we will make it public. And so, if it is a public data, then everybody can use it.
Well, thank you very much, and good news for the researchers that the data is going to become public in a couple of months. So, Dr. Saab, you would like to respond to the...
Yeah, for Tarsab. Yes, sir, Tarsab. Partly covered by Dr. Robina. Data itself are not directly, I would say, enhance the productivity, but data in terms they are convenient. They for the institute data, we have to very time consuming, and it takes a lot of efforts and lot of resources, and it takes a lot of time. I will quote the example of glacier monitoring and glacier lakes monitoring. Physically, we can, it may take years and years to monitor the glaciers because of the remoteness as the area, but with the remote sensing products, within a few days you can monitor the glacier lakes, that one. So that is the use of the data, how we are using that one. And it save your cost, it save your time, and it gives you a lot of, you can say, information. And in terms of second examples, land use, land cover, so with the remote sensing data, within a few days you can all cover. So that is the help of the data, the support of the data. And third example is like WAPDA and many agencies for delineation of the watersheds, it takes years and years for the survey. But now with a single or within a 5 minutes, you can delineate any kind of watershed. So that is the wealth and of the data, remote sensing data. It depends on how we use that one. And with this remote sensing, GIS data, and with the modeling tools, so we can have a lot of other aspects. And in terms of the data sharing have already been covered, but I'll add one more. Unfortunately, in Urdu, हमारे एक तो डाटा शेयर करने का वो है ही नहीं, या ना पॉलिसी है, लेकिन अगर कोई शेयर करना भी पड़ जाए तो वो इस तरह शेयर किया जाता है. मैं वापडा की एग्जांपल दूंगा. मोस्टली वो पहले तो इट टेक्स मंथ्स एंड मंथ्स के उनके साथ अप्रोच करने के लिए, उनको एक्सेस करने के लिए. फिर वो बड़ी बड़ी आपको किताबें देती हैं, लें जी इसको फोटोकॉपी कर लें, फिर दोबारा. हालांकि उनके पास डिजिटल फॉर्म में अवेलेबल है, लेकिन मोस्टली अनफॉर्चुनेटली मोस्ट ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स को वो हार्ड कॉपी में देते हैं. तो वो जितना एक स्टूडेंट ने MSc या PhD में अपना प्रोजेक्ट करना होता है, उसका ज़्यादा टाइम उस पे अननेसेसरीली जो डाटा उनसे लेना और फिर उसको अपने यूजेबल फॉर्मेट में कन्वर्ट करना उसमें लग सकता है. हालांकि वो अगर वो शेयर करें उसकी बेसिस पे. एंड एक एग्जांपल है कि हमारा स्टैटिस्टिकल डिवीज़न का जो हमारा एग्रीकल्चर का लॉट ऑफ डाटा है, वो भी इट्स ऑल्दो अवेलेबल है, ऑनलाइन अवेलेबल है, लेकिन अगर हम इस तरह के डाटा को पब्लिकली ओपन करते हैं तो दैन यूजिंग बिग डाटा एंड AI, बहुत सारे इस तरह के टूल्स अवेलेबल हैं कि वे क्विकली आप इस तरह की फॉर्मेट्स में ले जा सकते हैं कि सिंगल क्लिक के साथ उस डाटा को यूज़फुल इंफॉर्मेशन में ले जा सकते. हमने इसी डाटा को, जो ये वाला डाटा है एग्रीकल्चर स्टैटिस्टिक्स का डाटा है, उसको कन्वर्ट कर दिया हुआ है कि आप सिंगल क्लिक पे जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन आपने उस पर लेनी है वो ले सकते हैं. तो वो अभी हम उसको शेयर करें. तो जब हम इस डाटा को पब्लिकली ओपन करेंगे तो दैन हमारे बहुत सारे यूनिवर्सिटी के स्टूडेंट्स उसको यूज़ करेंगे, AI के साथ इसको यूज़फुल इंफॉर्मेशन में कन्वर्ट करेंगे, विच कैन बी यूज़फुल फॉर द प्रोफेशनल, फॉर द पॉलिसी मेकर्स. तो हम पहले डाटा को ओपन तो करें, दैन उसके बाद टूल्स अवेलेबल हैं. हमारे स्टूडेंट्स, हमारे इतनी कैपेसिटी है यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में कि उसको यूज़फुल इंफॉर्मेशन में कन्वर्ट कर सकते हैं. विद दैट, थैंक यू.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Bashir and Dr. Wahaj, for your insights and providing answers to the questions. And also would like to add in it, sir, big data is important for doing water accounting, and water accounting itself is important for enhancing agriculture and agricultural productivity and water productivity as well. I mean, if we have good accounts for that, we can actually save some water. We can, save some water from agriculture, and then we can also provide that water to further uses as industry as well as domestic. And I was talking about that now there is a lot of demand coming up from the domestic suppliers, that we need some surface water supplies as well. So that's important to and there's a link between data and then water accounting and monitoring as well. Then definitely it will help in enhancing our agriculture productivity. So at this note, because we are talking about data, big data, data analytics and artificial intelligence and all those things, so we are fortunate enough that we have a person among us that was the first Pakistani who actually received a PhD in artificial intelligence and robotics from Cardiff University back in 1992. And he's Dr. Khalid Hafiz. Basically, nowadays he's the Vice Chancellor of Balochistan University of Information Technology, Engineering and Management Sciences, normally called as BUTEMS. He has led many senior positions, including deans at University of Sheffield, then Bradford, York, London, Leicestershire, Dundee, Scotland. So I mean, he's actually one of the hope that artificial intelligence, big data analytics, how we can actually use them. So for the closing remarks, I would like to request Professor Dr. Khalid Hafiz to please come up the stage and tell us something more about AI, how AI can be helpful in doing water accounting and this type of things. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I think usually we call this as a graveyard slot, just having a wonderful lunch outside and not to doze off. So I just commend all our panel and the speakers that they kept audience engaged, and I didn't see anyone snoring there. So well done for all of that, for participating and engaging with the process. Yeah, I think it was a very wonderful topic and wonderful discussion, and I think it was a very high quality discussion, and that was obviously sounding music to my ear, talking about data and big data and AI in there. And definitely I do see this is the future direction and way forward. I must just try to summarize what happened and what I learned through this seminar in this with the panelists and the audience. Obviously, we looked at the situation that where do we stand as a country in terms of water counting and auditing. So accounting, auditing is essential for the water governance. And beyond that, water governance needs to be creating a framework. And framework is needed in terms of implementation. So what we tried to learn from this discussion was where we are with that, and where we want to be and how we can get there. So in terms of where we are, I think our esteemed speaker, she was Dr. Marlis Moye, mentioned about how big data is utilized in terms of water accounting system in different places in the world. So there was a model created by her or shown by her team that how it is utilized in terms of integrating different sources of environment and underground and overground water to create this accounting system and monitoring system. And the discussion evolved from that where we are with that. And what I've learned is that, okay, in Punjab, there's a number of places where have some bits and pieces of data gathering taking place. And there's some interest in KPK and maybe in Sindh, but I think obviously water monitoring surface level is very not available in Balochistan, and for obvious reasons, but there is an element of underground water to what extent we are working on it. And I know the EMI with the BUTEMS, we running a number of projects on that. But without going into detail of that, what we understand is that creating a big data sensible system which can create a meaningful intelligence and information for decision making is only possible if we can start doing the integration of that data. So data accuracy and monitoring is one thing, the instrumentation side is another sort of it, piezoelectric sensors or other sensors you want to use it, how you can quickly store and retrieve data. Do you need to use the cloud computing or distributed computing, ubiquitous computing element? What will be the bandwidth in terms of doing the real time? So without going into that detail, the technical side of it, I think the bigger problem is the functional element. The entities, they're working in their own silos. And then the added problem is that the provincial boundaries are adding into that silos. So that is restricting that the integration of data. And I think what I learned that possibly that Ministry of Water Resources can take a lead in there and creating that framework under which we should be cooperating from all our entities and provinces to share our data perhaps in one place. I don't know who will be owning it and who will be holding it and maintaining it. That can be a bigger issue in itself, because if you're feeding into data from different places with different standards, I think that can create its own complication. So that side needs to be, at least we have a framework to start with. And then within there, the technical details can be worked through, that how it can be treated. Maybe they're all working on the same standard systems and giving the SOPs that what is expected from different entities to feed into that. And I think perhaps this is what to do. Within that, I think what the learning from last 2 days is that big data is not only needed for water management. I think big data is needed for looking at the nexus, which is the food, water, and energy, and the climate change. So I think we're talking about big and bigger data now here from all different sources. If you want to find a reasonable solution, looking at the all life cycle and all cycle of integration of these complex problems. So I think we have to start thinking beyond only the water management problem. I think we have to think about all the other problems which feed into that nexus. And the technology is there, and technology can assist. That's what we understand. And how we can move on in breaking into that boundaries is something which is, this will be very useful. And how we can get there, and I think I'm glad coming from academia that the capacity building element which you mentioned, and we come to a stage that, okay, entities are expert in their own areas. Entities perhaps do not have time for doing the R&D all the time, but the academia have a lot of expertise available. And a lot of expertise available in AI, a lot of expertise available in modeling, water sources, so many PhDs there who are working 24 hours a day for the last 20 years perhaps. So the expertise is there, and we are not tapping into it. And a lot of time academia is thinking where we can utilize these expertise into. And the problem is that the industry itself is not requiring that much expertise in Pakistan. I'm talking about my own experience, where I was working all my last 30 years with the big industries there, with the Lucas Aerospace, IBM, and so on. In here, I think perhaps the best way for integration with the moving forward for the academia and the university is working with the entities. They bring in their problems and say that what expertise you can provide for seeking a solution together. And I think that will be a winning team. I think it will be a win-win relationship for everybody in terms of academia and industry moving forward and finding these solutions that are worthwhile for us for now and for our generations. So I think I'll stop there. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, our esteemed panelists. I am also thankful to Dr. Marlos Mul for your time and, talking on this important aspect. I'm also thankful to the audience who actually, was involved in listening to this dialogue. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, all. Please.